We now arrive at the final stage of the first-class mage exam, and things are going to be different since the exam will be completely taken over by the overwhelming presence of the great mage Siri. Stay tuned as we witness the conclusion of this epic arc and find out who will succeed in becoming one of the first-class mages. Let's get started. We see Stark again on the outskirts of Oberst, meditating. The old man from last time was there too, and he said to Stark that the art of battle is certainly an endless path, and Stark is now one step closer to the truth. After that, the old man left while saying that there is nothing more he can teach Stark, prompting Stark to reply, "You say that every day, don't you?" Frieren arrived at the scene, puzzling Stark. We see Frieren pouting again, so Stark asked why she is angry. Frieren explained that she had an argument with Frieren, to which Stark commented, "Again? Hasn't that been happening a lot lately?" He then explained that the upcoming third stage of the exam will be the last, so that isn't the time for them to be fighting. Frieren then said that this time was particularly hurtful. Her staff broke apart in battle inside the tomb of the ruined king, so she informed Frieren that she wished to go and have it repaired, but Frieren simply told her to replace her staff with a newer one. Stark remembered he and Frieren looking at it, and he said that Frieren had said it was broken beyond repair. Frieren argued that even if that may be true, it was the staff she received from Hyder, and it has been a part of her since she was little. Stark tried to comfort her by saying that Frieren is Frieren, and she meant no ill will. Frieren then said that at the very least, she could never fathom parting with it, to which Stark just stared. In the next scene, we go somewhere in town, and Lawine and Kanne are on a bridge. Kanne commented that 3 years is a long time until the next first-class exam. Lawine thought that she was making fun of her and said, "Go ahead and make fun of me like always." Kanne then asked if Lawine wanted her to make fun of her, to which Lawine said, "Not really." Kanne looked at her and asked if she would like a head pat instead, to which Lawine just looked at her, prompting Kanne to realize that she did like a head pat. So Kanne decided to give her a head pat, and while doing that, Frieren arrived at the scene and showed them a bag, prompting Kanne to wonder what was inside it. In the next scene, we go to Richter's shop, and he was talking to Dinkin, saying, "How long do you plan to loiter around for? You already failed the exam, so you're nobody to me now, and you're getting in the way of business," so he commanded him to leave. Dinkin then said that he was there as a customer right now, prompting Richter to say that if that's the case, then he should hurry and buy something. Lawfin was there too and gave a snack to Richter, but Richter didn't accept it. Dinkin commented that Richter was just unlucky that time. He simply drew the short end of the stick, and anyone else in that situation could have ended up like that. Richter then said, "A loss is a loss. I wasn't strong enough." He then said, "But enough of that. Despite how it may seem, I am in a horrible mood right now." To which Dinkin replied, "And yet you've still opened up shop." Because of that, Richter explained to Dinkin that he may not be aware, but no matter how horrible of a mood someone may be in, they must work to survive, prompting Dinkin to reply, "Is that right?" After that, Richter imagined it's good that he was the one to drop out. The first-class exam is held once every 3 years, so he pointed out that Dinkin, being a feeble old man, might not have another 3 years, to which Dinkin agreed. That's one word, Richter says, prompting Dinkin to reply that he is an incredibly brazen boy. He then explained that Richter mocks authority and does not hesitate to exploit the weak in order to pursue his goals, and because of that, Dinkin thinks that he truly is not someone worthy of admiration. He then added that nonetheless, he bears no enmity towards Richter, since he is sure that he too was a brazen boy like him, once upon a time, and now that boy has become an imperial mage. This puzzled Richter, prompting him to ask, "Your point?" So Dinkin said that there is no need for such pessimism. In 3 years' time, he'll be far stronger than he is now. After that, Dinkin instructed Lawfin that they will leave now. Lawfin said sorry to Richter and explained that Grandpa, aka Dinkin, lacks tact, prompting Richter to ask just who she is to Dinkin. Not long after, the two left and Richter commented that Dinkin left without buying anything after all. While waiting for customers, Frieren arrived at a shop, prompting him to comment, "Is today my unlucky day or something?" Frieren said that she asked around town, and she found out that Richter is capable of repairing a staff in his shop, no matter how broken it is. Richter instructed her to show him the staff, so Frieren gave him the bag full of broken parts of the staff. Richter commented on the status of the staff, saying, "What are these chunks? This can't be a staff, can it? You're putting me on the spot, giving me trash like this." Frieren then bluntly said, "It isn't trash," then suddenly changed her mood, adding that she thinks it's not. Richter then said that he was just starting to feel a little better, but now he's back in a terrible mood because of her. He added that even he has a right to choose the jobs that he wishes to take, and instructed Frieren to just give up on that staff. That prompted Frieren to comment, "Is that so? Very well then, if you can't do it." Richter then called after her, saying that she truly is an irritating person, and added, "When did I ever say that I can't do it?" After that, Richter placed the broken staff on his table and started his work. Frieren asked if he thought he could fix it by today, because she would like to have it fixed in time for the third stage of the exam, prompting Richter to say that now she was pushing it. Richter then apologized for calling the staff a piece of trash. He explained that the staff was an exquisite one that had been meticulously maintained and was clearly treasured, beyond any doubt. In the next scene, we see Fern and Stark eating some snacks, with Stark suggesting to Fern that they should head back to the inn. While walking, Fern said that Frieren does not understand her at all. Stark replied that, well, he doesn't understand Fern either, prompting Fern to hit him. Stark then added, "And that's why I think it's important to try to get to know you, and I believe Frieren is trying her best to do that." Not long after, they arrived at the inn, and when Fern walked into their room, she saw her staff, already fixed, which surprised her. Fern remembered the time when she was little, and Hyder explained to her that Frieren lacks emotion and empathy, and that difficulties or disagreements can happen because of that. However, he added that there is one thing that is admirable about Frieren, and that is how she will always worry about such things. He added that she would truly find no better master than her. Fern took her staff and smiled. In the next scene, the time of the third stage exam has come, and the glasses guy from the first exam announced that he would be the one commencing it. Inside the tower in Oberst, Ciri arrived and asked Cince if she knew why she had personally come. Cince just stared at her, leading Ciri to comment, "No response, huh? You always do that when you find the timing is not right." Ciri then explained that 12 examinees passed the second stage of the exam, an exceptionally high number, and far too many. She added that having an exam built around everyone working together was a marvelous idea because, in her opinion, first-class mages today lack a sense of cooperation. The glasses guy agreed, commenting that it truly was a shame. Ciri continued, saying that among the examinees, there is someone powerful who should not be. The man beside her suggested she was referring to Frieren. Ciri agreed, noting that because of Frieren, many who do not meet the standard have passed. She expressed concern that if they continued with the conventional third-stage exams used up to now, they would all perish. Calling Cince's attention, Ciri said she imagined that was far from what Cince hoped for and that she, too, did not desire so many futile deaths. Before Cince could respond, Ciri stated there was no need to apologize as it was all Frieren's fault. Exceptions beget exceptions. I shall host the third-stage exam myself and screen them all peacefully, declared Ciri. Addressing the mustached man Lernan, Ciri noted his lack of objections, despite usually being in charge of the exam. Lernan responded that he realized he was not qualified to test Frieren, having noticed from a single glance that she was restraining her mana, possessing an amount almost rivaling Ciri's. Ciri smirked and turned to Falsh, asking if he had noticed. Falsh admitted he hadn't and was unsure what she referred to. He recalled witnessing Frieren's mana at the examination grounds, noting it did not appear restrained. He doubted the practicality of such a technique, given the time it would require. Ciri then revealed that Frieren has dedicated her life to this impractical technique to deceive demons, who are far more sensitive to mana. She explained that without natural gifts, deceiving demons, even after centuries of restraining mana, is nearly impossible. It's undeniably a waste of time. Using that time to train in something else instead would make you several times more powerful. It is terribly inefficient. However, that inefficiency could also expose absolute vulnerabilities in an opponent. In a battle between two skilled mages, misjudging the opponent's mana is likely to lead directly to defeat. Ciri explained that in reality, Frieren is a mage who is lacking in technique relative to her age, but that is exactly how she defeated the demons. That's the extent to which Frieren polished her mana restraint. As far as Ciri knows, only the Demon King was able to see through it at a glance. That is, until this very moment, Lernan, Ciri said, noting that Lernan was the second one she knew who could see through it so quickly. Lernan downplayed it, calling it a coincidence, and mentioned he just happened to witness the slightest instability. Ciri then praised him for his modesty and reliability, noting that over half a century has passed since he became the first-class mage. You were a timid boy, and that makes it all the more unfortunate. Even though you are in such a position now, the end of the road is in sight for you, Ciri said to Lernan. She continued, saying he would never have a chance to fight with Frieren, even if it might be a battle he could win. Ciri decided to leave, commenting that human apprentices should not be taken after all. She lamented that even Lernan, in the end, couldn't see the instability in her mana. After that, we switched to the examinees with Falsh, who awaited his announcement. Falsh informed them that for the third stage of the exam, Great Mage Ciri would personally interview everyone. Frieren remarked that it had come to this. Ciri had no intention of letting Fern and her pass, prompting Fern to ask if she and Ciri were acquainted. Frieren explained that it was a long time ago and said that Ciri would probably decide who passes using pure instinct. However, she added, Ciri's instinct had always been accurate, and in truth, she still hadn't become the mage Ciri desired. During the assessment and interview, Kanne was the first. Suddenly, Ciri, on a whim, declared that she failed and should go home. Kanne asked why, and Ciri replied that she was still showing fear toward her mana, knowing her own limitations perfectly well. You can't even visualize yourself as a first-class mage. In the world of magic, you can't materialize what you can't visualize. That's the most basic principle. Go home, Ciri stated. Following Kanne, Ciri quickly failed Dunst, Lawfin, Sharf, and Error as well. When it was Frieren's turn, Ciri noted that Frieren also couldn't visualize herself as a first-class mage, but for a different reason than the others. She observed that Frieren held no expectation of passing. Frieren responded, "Well, it's true, isn't it?" Ciri gave Frieren a chance, asking what magic she liked. Frieren replied, "Flower bed making magic," leading Ciri to remark, "So the magic Flam taught you, then? How asinine." Ciri then failed Frieren, who simply walked out. Ciri commented on Frieren's departure, saying she couldn't believe that a mage like Frieren managed to defeat the Demon King if she didn't stand her ground after being ridiculed. Frieren clarified that she didn't do it alone but was with Himmel, Eisen, and Hyder, and if even one of them had fallen, they would have lost. "So you were blessed with comrades then? How lucky you were," Ciri commented. Frieren agreed, acknowledging her luck. We returned to a time when the hero party was resting in a forest. Frieren asked Himmel why he had recruited her, and Himmel explained they were seeking a powerful mage. Frieren pointed out that there were countless powerful mages in the royal capital, so they didn't have to choose her. Himmel countered, saying he thought she was good. Frieren, curious, asked, "Why?" Himmel revealed, "Frieren, you may not remember, but I met you once in the past." When Frieren expressed her lack of memory, Himmel recounted that as a child, he got lost in the forest searching for herbs. Wandering around the forest at night, he felt solitude for the first time and feared he'd never return to his village. Then, an elf girl approached and gave him directions to a nearby settlement. She offered no words of encouragement, leaving his young mind to perceive her as cold. Whether she sensed my unease or acted on a whim, Himmel continued, she performed flower bed making magic for him, which he found beautiful, his first experience of seeing magic as something beautiful. Returning to the present, Frieren mused that it might have been a coincidence, but she believed that the asinine magic her master, Flam, taught her allowed her to meet Himmel and the others. She suspected Ciri might plan to fail Fern as well, but doubted she could. That girl will surpass Ciri's expectations, since the era of the humans has arrived. When Fern's turn for the interview came, Siri pondered Frieren's statement about surpassing her expectations. Observing Fern, Siri initially thought she was just like the other examinees, paralyzed by her mana. However, noticing something in Fern, Siri asked what Fern could see. Fern's response, instability, brought a smile to Siri's face. In an unexpected turn, Siri offered Fern the opportunity to become her apprentice, to which Fern firmly responded, "No thank you." Siri then said she would not mistreat Fern and could help her reach heights not yet achieved by any mages, even to that day. Fern asked if that decision would affect whether she passed. Siri replied that it might. Fern explained that she was Frieren's apprentice. Before the interview started, Frieren told Fern that Siri might say many things, but there was no need to surrender to her demands. She added that no matter what she told Siri, she would fail, but no matter what Fern told her, she would pass. After all, Siri's instincts have always been correct. Siri smiled at Fern, saying that must be Frieren's wisdom, and she was not foolish enough to let a promising mage slip through her fingers. Soon after, Siri passed Fern and called the next examinee. The next to enter was Denkin. Siri mentioned she was quite familiar with Imperial Mage Denkin, and Denkin expressed his honor at being recognized by her. Siri noted that he was a veteran mage in the military and now the most authoritative mage of the northern countries, often hearing of his glorious tale. She wished she had met Denkin when he was younger, full of vigor and ambition, as she had no interest in cinders. Their eyes locked, and Siri added, "Or so I thought." Denkin inquired if she had changed her mind. Siri questioned if he had considered how he would fight her upon seeing her. Denkin admitted he had, for an instant, but then quickly resigned himself. Siri passed him, commenting his vigor and ambition still seemed to burn, as most wouldn't even think of fighting her. Yubel was the next examinee. After a brief look, Siri passed her without a word, leading Yubel to remark that she hadn't said anything yet. Siri questioned the need for conversation, to which Yubel conceded it was a fair point. Lan then entered. Siri chided him for joking, asking about the fool who didn't even set foot in the examination grounds. Lan's clone appeared at the door, saying, "This is how it'll be for now," and added that the real him was also at the examination grounds, as not being there wouldn't count as participation. Siri commented that throughout the entire exam, Lan's real body had not even left his home village, and she assumed he was enjoying a leisurely cup of tea at that moment. In a village away from Oberst, we saw what Siri was referring to. This surprised Lan, who said it was unexpected, and Yubel also couldn't tell. Siri praised him for his courage and passed him. Next was Werbel's turn. Siri noted he was the greatest combatant among all second-class mages. She observed that Werbel had recognized at a glance she was an unbeatable enemy, not out of fear, but practicality. Werbel explained that only a second-class mage would be foolish enough to engage in an unwinnable match. Siri then asked him about his preferred kind of magic. Werbel responded, "Magic is a tool used to kill. Are there kinds to like or hate?" Siri smiled and passed him. Method was next. Siri asked her what she thought upon seeing her. Method thought Siri was incredibly cute. Siri, puzzled by the year's examinees, passed Method soon after. After the interviews, Siri spoke with Since, apologizing for the unexpected outcomes and acknowledging the abundant harvest of talented examinees that year. The examinees then gathered together. Werbel consoled Sharf and Error, reminding them there was always a next time. Meanwhile, Yubel continued to follow Land, and Kanne sat lost in thought. Fern told Frieren she had passed, leading Frieren to praise and pat her on the head. Denkin then approached, expressing gratitude for helping him get this far and sharing his plans to return to his hometown and visit the cemetery. In the next scene, we go to the town's bakery, where Stark and Fern are buying snacks. Not long after, Fern decided to go with the flower-shaped cookies, but another person wanted them too. It was Lawfin, and she was with Denkin. Because of that, they decided to eat together. An awkward atmosphere filled the surroundings as they looked at each other. Denkin then invited them to go ahead and eat, and not to mind him. He explained that when he was just a boy, he rarely had the chance to eat sweet things. Stark thought to himself, wondering what was going on. Stark was given snacks by Dankin, for which he thanked him. Stark then asked Fern who the old man was, and Fern introduced him as Imperial Mage Dankin. Hearing Dankin's position, Stark exclaimed in surprise, asking if that meant Dankin was a noble. Stark quickly apologized for speaking casually to Dankin, but Dankin brushed it off, saying he didn't mind, and that he had come to the town simply as a mage. Stark pointed out that it was unusual for an unrelated party like him to also be treated, to which Dankin replied that he had nothing else on which to spend his money. Stark and Fern were puzzled and asked if there really couldn't be anything else, like grandchildren, to which Dankin explained that he has no children or grandchildren. His wife left this world before him, when he was in his mid-20s. He explained further that his wife's body was frail from the beginning. She was the daughter of a noble from a remote region in the northern plateau, torn apart by political strife. At the time, he was in need of both wealth and influence. That was the only means I knew of to save her, said Dankin. He further explained that it is truly ironic because when Ciri advertised this special privilege and established the Continental Magic Association, it was shortly after his wife had passed away. He had never felt so helpless, considering that he can even command a country now. Dankin then called Fern and said that for him, magic had always been merely a tool for conflict. He asked her to tell Frieren that, for the first time in a long while, he was reminded of how fun magic can be. He became a mage because he admired Frieren from the hero party. Fern suggested that he should tell Frieren himself, as she was sure Frieren would be pleased to hear that from him, and Dankin agreed. In the next scene, we see Frieren happily sitting among a bunch of grimoires, holding one in her hands. She remarked that she expected nothing less from the magical town of Oberst, having managed to buy plenty of wonderful grimoires. While enjoying herself, Frieren noticed an old vendor who had dropped her merchandise. Werbel then arrived at the scene, calling out to the old woman and quickly helping her with his magic. After helping, Werbel noticed Frieren and approached her. He commented that he wouldn't have ignored such a situation, to which Frieren responded that she too was concerned about it for a moment. Werbel replied with a hint of surprise, "Just a moment, huh?" Werbel then said, "What a surprise, huh? If I were Hero Himmel's comrade." Frieren interrupted, "If you were Himmel's comrade, what?" Werbel just stared at her. Frieren said she should be the one surprised, recalling that Werbel tried to kill her and Fern's team during the first exam. She knew this because Fern had complained about it, describing him as someone who looked like he would kick a dog. Werbel smirked, acknowledging he had heard such descriptions before. He explained that what he did was merely a threat, but he did think that the world might be better off without one person, hinting at Yubel. This caught Friren's attention, and Werbel continued, expressing his willingness to do anything to protect his home village. He aspired to become a first-class mage to earn this special privilege and gain access to the magic he desired, saying, "The more powerful the magic I have, the more demons I can destroy." He then explained that even if he's in a place irrelevant to his goal, he tries to lend a helping hand whenever possible. This prompted Frieren to ask why. Werbel elaborated that his hometown is in a remote northern region where there are many anecdotes about Hero Himmel, the conquering of the Thousand Mirror Tower, battles with the Immortal Boss, one of the 7 Sages of Destruction, and the Hell Emperor dungeon. He shared that as a kid, he loved reading stories about those adventures. However, the elderly in his village rarely talked about such tales. Instead, they mentioned how the hero party would eliminate monsters attacking villages or escort merchants. The hardest thing they mentioned was simply transporting goods. For Werbel, these tales were bland, yet the elderly shared them with deep affection. It was after Himmel's death and the onslaught by the remnants of the demons that Werbel realized the true impact of those deeds. The grand battles were irrelevant to their village. What mattered was protecting daily life. He's sure that if Hero Himmel had not come to their village, it might not have survived even after peace was restored. When Frieren asked what he was trying to say, Werbel replied that the simple adventure stories of Hero Himmel had brought him this far. He realized his story was long but wanted to convey the impact of Himmel's actions. After seeing Scharf and Air waiting for him, Werbel bid Frieren farewell, reminding her to treasure the people she meets. He noted that final farewells are not always due to death, but it seemed Frieren understood this well. We then flash back to a time when Himmel helped a man with his load, prompting Eisen to question the point of such trivial assistance. Himmel acknowledged its triviality but expressed his unwillingness to forsake anyone in trouble before him. Reflecting on Wirbel's words, Frieren reassured Himmel that it was fine, as the world was genuinely changing. Time passed, and Frieren, Fern, and Stark returned to their inn. Fern informed them that they could bring companions to the special privilege conferment that night. She suggested they all attend together, leading to Frieren reluctantly agreeing, while Fern and Stark looked at her. After talking, they decided to go to the tower. Fern talked to the staff and noted that she had heard bringing companions was allowed. Unfortunately for Frieren, as decreed by Ciri, Frieren was forbidden from entering. The staff had been instructed to prohibit her entry into any Continental Magic Association facility for the next 1,000 years. Because of this, Fern asked what exactly Frieren had done. Frieren, on the other hand, simply accepted the situation, remarking that she guessed there was no choice. She admitted to having offended Ciri, also commenting that Ciri was practically a child. With a reluctant look, Frieren explained that she wasn't there because she wanted to be either and decided to wait outside. Stark then decided to wait outside too, to keep Frieren company. Time passed, and as night fell, the evening bell rang. This led Frieren to think that perhaps Ciri would soon finish awarding the special privileges. Frieren pointed out that being a first-class mage was the pinnacle for mages, a feat not even 50 people had achieved, and praised Fern for being a remarkable one. She added that she was sure Fern would become a famous mage of her generation. This caught Stark's attention, and Frieren added that she was happy about it, to which Stark smiled and agreed. While waiting, Lernan arrived and approached them. Stark asked who he was, and Frieren explained that he must be someone from the Continental Magic Association. Lernan introduced himself to them and commented that it appeared his master, Ciri, had caused Frieren trouble, to which Frieren responded that it was fine and Ciri had always been like that. Frieren looked at Lernan and noticed something, prompting Stark to ask what was wrong. Frieren pointed out, so you can see it after all, mana instability. She then praised Lernan, saying he was incredibly skilled and not suited to the peaceful era, to which Lernan replied, "Why yes, I am an old-fashioned mage who knows only battle." Lernan explained that Ciri often said the same thing. Had he been born during the era of war with the Demon King army, he might have made his mark in history alongside other famous heroes. And what does that have to do with me? Frieren asked. Lernan said that amongst Ciri's apprentices, the only one who had made their mark on history was the now mythical great mage Flam, and once he died of old age, another living proof of Ciri would vanish. He said he did not wish for desolation to befall that woman in the future, even if it meant bearing the notoriety of challenging the legendary mage Frieren. He quickly charged an attack, but Frieren managed to create a defensive barrier. Lernan attacked and managed to break Frieren's barrier. The attack landed on Frieren's right shoulder, leaving a mark. "May I request a duel, Frieren?" Lernan asked, to which Frieren replied that she was not going to duel, as it would be a waste of time. Sheesh. There are too many tactless mages out there who only know battle, Frieren remarked. She then explained that there is no need for him to leave his mark on history because Ciri will undoubtedly remember him. She further mentioned that Ciri struggles to express her feelings honestly with her own apprentices. We then go back to the time when Ciri was interviewing Frieren for the third exam. Frieren pointed to the flower bed and mentioned that it was made with magic, prompting Ciri to ask, "So what?" Frieren responded that it was the magic her master enjoyed, and she reminded Ciri that she had called it pointless magic. Ciri acknowledged that Flam was a failure in her eyes. Despite possessing immense talent, she never reached Ciri's heights. After Flam, Ciri took on many disciples, all of whom would pass away before reaching her level. However, she confessed that she vividly remembers each of their personalities and favorite spells, and she has never regretted taking on disciples, even if they failed to make a mark on history. Lernan, upon realizing what Frieren was alluding to, nodded in understanding. Shortly after, Fern arrived. She informed them that the special privilege conferment had ended, so Frieren suggested they leave. Fern noticed Frieren's shoulder injury and inquired about it, but Frieren dismissed it, saying she'd need to get it healed at the church and wondered if it was still open. Lernen reflected on their tactlessness, Frieren, Ciri, and himself. In the next scene, as the party prepared to leave town, a group of people, including the old man, bid farewell to Stark, reminding him that the path of battle is long and treacherous, and he should take care. Afterward, while walking away, Fern commented on Stark's popularity wherever he goes. Frieren then inquired about the magic Fern received from Ciri. Fern proudly showed off her spotless robe, saying, "Can you not tell?" Frieren noticed the cleanliness of the robe and its floral scent. Fern revealed she received spotless clothing magic, making laundry much easier. Frieren recognized it as legendary magic from the mythical era and praised Fern. Fern shared that Ciri seemed quite dissatisfied when granting the magic, eliciting a chuckle from Frieren. While walking, they encountered Lawine and Cannae, who thanked Frieren for her help. They expressed their intent to try again in 3 years and bid each other well. Fern observed that Frieren, like Sane in the past, bids farewell easily. We flash back to a time when Himmel easily bid farewell to a recent companion. Frieren found this strange, but Himmel believed they would meet again on their journey. Eisen then commented that he don't think it suits him. Even if it was just for a request, the guy they bid farewell was someone who traveled with them for 2 weeks. Himmel agreed to that and argued that, however, as long as they persist on their journey, he is sure they will meet again. A tearful farewell befits us not. After all, a reunion would be most awkward, Himmel had said. After a montage showing what others from the exam were doing, we returned to Frieren and her group. Frieren echoed Himmel's sentiment about reunions being awkward, leaving Fern puzzled asking, "What are you talking about?" And that's the end of the video. Please like and subscribe.